Shalom, Shabbat Shalom for those who are in Shabbat, and Shabbat Tov for the rest of you who are already out of Shabbat. Thank you for joining our Bet Midrash from Israel. We teach Torah in Yeshua from Israel as every Shabbat or every Motzei Shabbat. And today we're going to finish the book of Genesis. One book, and I'm very sad to leave this book because it's my favorite book and all the stories are just amazing inside. So one more time, I'm going to split the message in two. Like I said last time, I said that we are going to do one for the beginners or not beginners. I mean, people are mainly interested in discovering the Messiah in the Parasha, and that will be about the message. And so this is going to be the first part. And then after, we will have a second part, a second video that is meant for the one who wants to deepen the subject with the secret level and to know more about what is the soul of the Torah, which is called the Sod level. Sod means a secret, but it means also the whole, a complete vision of everything. So that's going to be for the second video is meant for the members of the YouTube channel or the members on our website, while the first one is public. So thank you, and please just subscribe to our channel, make a like, a comment, so like this we know that we are speaking to someone, and share our videos. Thank you very much. So if we browse the parasha, we have Yaakov, that has Yosef swear that he will bury him in Canaan. Then after Ephraim and Menashe are adopted, and the blessing of the 12 tribes, burial of Yaakov in Canaan, Yosef promise to his brothers, and the death of Yosef. So it starts with the death of Yaakov and it ends with the death of Yosef, which is a whole complete study in itself. But we're going to only touch parts of the teachings of the yeshiva, and this is what I'm sharing now for the first part. The first video is about the teaching of the yeshiva in PDF that you can get when you get the book. So this wonderful book of Genesis transported us from the beginning of mankind through the adventures of the patriarchs, the fathers of our faith. And their life, their tests, their sorrows, everything have taught us to put trust in Hashem and to understand that everything has been planned, and also the coming back to unity that has been disconnected, divided since the original sin. So the Parasha VaYechi concludes the path of the life of the forefathers. Yaakov and his family are now in Egypt for a time of exile, for which Yaakov already knows the length, because he foresees the centuries of trial, and the Spirit shows him the end times, which is about this parasha. But yet, this part, the end times, is encrypted. He cannot find out. So it says in Genesis 49:1, and Yaakov called his sons and said, "Gather together, that I might tell you what shall befall on you in the last days." Be'acharit hayamim. And this expression, acharit hayamim, is really about the end times. We'll find this expression in many other places related to the end times. So the Torah, I'm not going to go into all the details of this. This will be also part of the second video and in the yeshiva studies. We cannot, it's so much things that are in this parasha that it's impossible to go all over the topics. So the Torah specifies that Yaakov lived, VaYechi. He did not simply settle, but he lived and experienced a life better than what he had experienced so far. And Yaakov lived, VaYechi, in the land of Egypt 17 years. So the length of Yaakov's life was 147 years. So then it's a strange way to put it together. First of all, he lived 17 years, and then after 147 years. The numerical value of VaYechi, he lived, is 34, which teaches us that in fact Yaakov lived truly well. He really enjoyed life during the 2 periods of 70 years that he had with Joseph because Joseph was sold when he was 17. And then after, when Yaakov came to Egypt, he lived 17 years in Egypt. So it was 34. What does it mean? We know that Yosef is Messiah ben Yosef. So it hints as without his Messiah, Israel cannot really live. And Israel shall experiment life and the power of resurrection when they shall bow before the revelation of who Yosef is. We saw it last Parasha. So I really encourage you to watch one after one, because the Parashot and the Torah is building something in our minds. So we need to understand on one top of another. This is why next week with the book of Shemot, Exodus, we will come back to the book of Genesis. When Joseph, the Midrash tells us, when Joseph declared, I am Joseph, the divine plan was revealed to his brothers, and all the questions were answered. Everything that had happened to them during the last 22 years became clear. It shall be the same when the time will come for God to reveal himself. He shall announce, I am the Lord. The veil shall then be taken off their eyes and our eyes. Sorry, this is the Chafetz Chaim quoting, not the Midrash, sorry. I quoted last week also. And we shall understand everything that has happened to us throughout our history. Just amazing declaration, meaning that the revelation is thick as a veil. You know, the blindness of Judah is as thick as a veil, which is very thin. And in Romans 11, it tells us that for if their casting Yeshua aside means reconciliation for the world, what will their accepting him mean? It will be life from the dead, which is exactly the topic of this parasha, VaYechi. Israel lives because of Messiah. And the Messiah appears again in Yosef's last will. There is a verse that says, Genesis 47, then Yaakov said, swear to me. And he swore to him. So Israel, so first we have Yaakov and then Israel, bowed, Vayishtachu, himself on the head of the bed, Mita. Okay, so we have Vayishtachu, he bowed down, and bed is Mita. What is interesting is that the book of Hebrews translates it differently. It says, using the Septuagint translation, Hebrews 11, quoting this verse, says, by faith, Yaakov, when he was dying, blessed each of the sons of Joseph and worshipped, bowed down, leaning on the top of his staff, Mate. Mate, the key word is Mate, which in fact is Mita in Hebrew. And then after, in the Greek word used, switches the word by removing the vowels of Mita, and it translated as Mate. And what does it mean, Mate? Mate, that this is, of course, Mate is Hebrew, but in Greek, it's Rabdos, which is translated in the Septuagint like scepter or staff. So this word is also used in Septuagint to translate the word staff and scepters attributed to the Messiah, like in Genesis 38:25. When she was brought out, she sent Tamar to her father-in-law, saying, by the man to whom this belongs, I am with child. And she said to Judah, please determine whose these are, the signet, the cord, and the staff. So the staff is Mate in Hebrew, but it's also Mita, which is the same word, okay? And in Greek, it's Rabdos, like in Hebrews. The Hebrew text that was given in Mount Sinai didn't contain any vowels. So they were added by the scholars afterwards in order to facilitate the comprehension and understanding of the sacred text. So the change of vowel in the same word brings the richness to our verse and open our eyes on the topic of Israel, the subject of Israel's worship. Jacob said that Israel worshipped, and he worshipped on his bed or on the scepter. And the word worshipped is used in the Septuagint for prostration. Same thing, it's worshiping, prostration. And it says in Genesis 48, and Yaakov was told, look, your son Joseph is coming to you, and Israel strengthened himself and sat up on the bed, a la mita. Furthermore, the sentence on the bed ala mita appears twice in the Tanakh. Here, in our verse, and in the following verse in the story of Queen Esther. When the king returned from the palace garden to the place of the banquet of wine, Haman had fallen across the couch, halamita, where Esther was. Then the king said, "Will he assault the queen while I'm in the house?" As the word left the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face and they killed him. So the Midrash tells us the righteous find strength, and Yaakov strengthened himself and sat on the bed alamita, while the evil one, the wicked one, they just collapse. And then if Haman fall and across the couch alamita. So what does it mean all this? Does this thematic analysis and the study of the words, mita, mate, they shed light on the future events and the promised redemption at the heart of Jacob and Joseph's common wish, meaning that salvation awaits there in the promised land, and Jacob and Joseph have seen it prophetically. Israel, so the name of Israel, worship and bows before the image of the Messiah, his scepter, the scepter of the Messiah. Both Ben Yosef and Ben David, who hold this scepter of royalty. He will fulfill the final redemption to come to reign and to rule in the land of Israel. While Amalek, which was the ancestor of Aman, we just quoted in the book of Esther, will be defeated by the coming of the King of Kings, and every knee shall bow before him. Exodus 17, then the Lord said to Moshe, "Write this for a memorial in the book and recount it in the hearing of Yeshua, that I will utterly blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven." So this is talking about the end times while unveiling the Messiah in the Parasha. And based on this Midrash, Rashi explained that this Parasha doesn't close or end the book of Bereshit, but in itself, it is a closed book. Because this parasha follows immediately the last one with only one space between the two chapters. And I want to show you, it will be even easier if we will show you it like this. Wait a second. Where am I? Share screen. Here we go. You see, this is the text in English. We don't see any difference, but here, you will see that between this verse, which is 27, and that one, there is only one space. Normally, we learn that open parasha, we go to the line, while the closed one, you have 9 spaces between the two, the last words, which is closed. But this one is even closer than closed. It has only one space. And nevertheless, it's another chapter. So it means that there is a secret in this parasha, and the secret is, of course, the revelation of the end time. So while was this section more closed than the others, tells us the Midrash Rabbah, when the patriarch died, slavery in Egypt started for Israel. And there is another reason, is that Yaakov wanted to reveal the end times and the coming of the Messiah, because he said, "I will let you know what will happen at Be'acharit Yamim, at the end of time," but it was closed for him. Holy Spirit left him. It couldn't reveal the end time. Because what? Because Yaakov saw that he came to Egypt. All the 12 tribes were all together. Joseph was there fulfilling the mission he had been called for. And then the brothers bowed before Joseph like it was announced. So he thought that it was the end time, but not. It was only the prophetical end times. First of all, exile had to come to purify all the bad things and to be like a forerunner of the work of Messiah, who was going to destroy the deeds of the evil. And that's I'm going to develop in the other video. For the moment, let's go back. The patriarchs who understand they were prophets. Yaakov's exile reaches beyond the exile in Egypt. He also foreshadows the 4th and the last exile of Israel, which is, as we have learned, the exile of Rome. Genesis 47, when the time drew near that Israel must die, Israel, so messianic vocation, he called his son Yosef and said to him, now I have found favor in your sight. Please put your hand under my thigh. It was in fact on the sign of circumcision, and deal kindly and truly with me. Please do not bury me in Egypt. Egypt is the lowest place of impurity. So here we have Israel, okay? Each time that we have the name Israel, prophetic prophecies coming. And Ramban, Nachmanides, gives an interesting interpretation. At the beginning of this chapter, Nachmanides explained that Jacob's descent towards the Egyptian exile represents the anticipation of the descent of his posterity towards the exile of Edom or of Roman Empire in which we are now, which comprises the Ishmael one, as we learned, which is part of the Roman exile. Okay, this is why we're suffering at the hand of Ishmael for the moment. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. Yaakov's descent to Egypt alludes to the present exile and that of the fourth beast of the book of Daniel, which represents Rome. So for the Jews, it's very clear that the prophecy of Daniel represents the different exiles, and the beast, the iron beast, is Rome. So Yaakov requests not to bury him in Egypt, sends then a very clear message to the exiled tribes that are going to be exiled by the split of the northern kingdom, enjoining them not to stay in Galut, in exile, but to return to the land God promised and to the temple where he must reign. This is the same with the same message in the Brit Parasha. The bride must come out of Babylon, which is the sister of Egypt, which is the lowest place of impurity, which is what we have to come out from in order to come into the kingdom's God. Israel must come back from exile. The topic is still the same. If the young Jewish nation, Israelite nation, had stayed in Egypt, assimilation would have had lethal effects on the vision. By making his son swear to bury him in the promised land, Yaakov makes alive the promise of future redemption and shows the way to his people. Likewise, God is expecting us to come out of the corrupted system of wrong beliefs, which is called Babylonian system, that keeps us far from our promised land and from our calling in the Messiah, going into wrong doctrines, leaving Torah. And in Revelation 18, it says, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, lets you share in her sins and lets you receive of her plagues. So it's very important that we came out of the system of thinking that is Esau thinking. We have learned this throughout the book of Genesis. So prophecy speaks again of Ephraim, who must also return from exile. The adoption of Joseph's children, Ephraim and Menashe, by Yaakov may be the most extraordinary and mysterious passage of the book of Genesis. Who are they? It's the mystery of the reunification of the Sukkot David, the 12 tribes. It said, Genesis 48, then Yaakov said to Joseph, God Almighty El Shaddai appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan and blessed me and said to me, behold, I will make you fruitful and multiply you, and I will make you a multitude of people, lika'al amim, and give this land to your descendants after you as an everlasting possession. And now your two sons, Ephraim and Menashe, who were born to you in the land of Egypt before I came to you in Egypt, are mine. As Reuven and Shimon, they shall be mine. Your offspring, whom you beget after them, shall be yours. They will be called by the name of their brothers in their inheritance. Sorry. The key word is Ka'al Amim. Ka'al. Ka'al is assembly. Kehillah is congregation in Hebrew. And the word Kehillah, Ka'al, is translated by church, ecclesia, in the Brit Hadashah. Like it says in Matthew 16, and I also say to you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my Kehillah, my church, ecclesia, and the gates of Hades shall not prevail against it. Which is a direct association, link, and hint to the prophecy of Jeremiah 31, We read in 31, Jeremiah 31:4, again, I will build you and you shall be rebuilt, O Virgin of Israel, the 12 tribes. You shall be again adorned with your tambourines and shall go forth in the dances of those who rejoice. Behold, I will bring health and healing. I will heal them, to Jeremiah 33, and reveal to them the abundance of peace and truth. And I will cause the captives of Judah, the Jews, and the captives of Israel, Ephraim, to return and will rebuild those places as at first. So when Matthew 16 is telling that I'm going on you, Peter, to build my Keilah, is alluding to Jeremiah 31 and 32. So seized by the Spirit and strengthening himself, Israel bows before Joseph, image of the Messiah, and Yaakov prophesies over the assembly, the Keilah of God, that is composed of the redeemed of the land. Revelation 7, 9, 10. After these things I looked, and behold, a great multitude, which no one could number, of all nations, tribes, people, a huge Keilah, and tongues standing before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes, with palm branches in their hands, and crying out with a loud voice, saying, Salvation, Yeshua, belongs to our God, who sits on the throne and to the Lamb. So Yaakov saw this in Joseph. So he worshipped and he bowed down on the scepter of Messiah, a la mita or mate. So all the redeemed will be sealed among the 12 tribes. But because this is the end, and the end time was concealed to Yaakov, Ephraim won't be faithful. And this is what Yaakov is going to see also. He's going to be assimilated. And what he says in Genesis 48, but as for me, when I came from Padan, Rachel died beside me in the land of Canaan on the way, where there was but a little distance to go to Ephraim. Sorry. And I buried her there on the way to Ephraim, that is Bethlehem, pointing to the Messiah. Then Israel saw Joseph's son and said, who are these? Joseph said to his father, these are my sons whom God has given me in this place. And he said, bring them to me and I will bless them. So there is the whole story interpreting the roles and so, but then the birthright and so, but I'm not going to this. What I want to develop here is say, Israel saw, so it's Israel, okay, not Jacob. Israel saw Joseph's son and he asked, who are these? What does it mean? He doesn't know them. He's the grandfather. He has been living 17 years with his grandchildren. What does Israel see? He sees prophetically the future of the sons of Joseph, of Ephraim. He sees future in the house of Israel, all the sins and everything that are going to happen in the story. And the Midrash tells us, who is this one who will turn Israel towards idolatry? Talking about all the house of Israel that sinned and sinned, like Jeroboam and all the ones. And the Midrash tells us again, Jacob wanted to bless Joseph's sons, but at that moment, the divine presence left him. It happened because impious men like Jeroboam and Achab would be descendants of him. It is why Jacob asked, who are these? His question referred to the two periods of the history of the children of Israel. The first is the sin of the golden calf, when the people explain, this is your God, O Israel, in Exodus 20:32. This also designates kings who led the people to idolatry later in history. So he saw prophetically that the tribe will be scattered due to the sins. The unfaithful tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh, the northern kingdom, provoked the divine wrath, and they had to undergo deportation by the hand of Assyria in 8th century BC. So the tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh in the Bible have remained a symbol of the unfaithfulness of Israel. You can read throughout the book of Hosea. Then the Lord said to him, call his name Jezreel, for in a little while I will avenge the bloodshed of Jezreel in the house of Jehu, and bring an end to the kingdom of the house of Israel. It shall come to pass in that day that I will break the bow of Israel in the valley of Jezreel. And she conceived again and bore a daughter. Then God said to him, call her name Lo Ruchama, for I will no longer have mercy on the house of Israel, but I will utterly take them away. And this is what happened. They were exiled for an exile that they have not come back yet. But there's even more in this than a historical message in the Israel vision. He says also, Hosea 1:10-11, yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured or numbered. And it shall come to pass in the place where it was said to them, you are not my people, then it shall be said to them, you are sons of the living God, Bnei El Chai. Then the children of Judah and the children of Israel shall be gathered together and appoint for themselves one head. And they shall come up out of the land, for great will be the day of Jezreel. So this posterity is called son of the living God, Bnei El Chai. And this is another hint to the Messiah, because we have been made son and daughters, Ephraim, Menashe, Judah, all who received the Messiah, throughout our faith in him. And this prophecy can come to an accomplishment through the Messiah, like it is said in Galatians 3:26, for you are all sons of God through faith in the Messiah, Yeshua. So we are son of the living God. But before that, Ephraim assimilated into the nations, Hosea 7:8. Ephraim has mixed himself among the peoples. Ephraim prostituted himself, Hosea 4:17. Ephraim is joined to idols, let him alone. Ephraim needs to convert and return to God, Jeremiah 31:18. I have surely heard Ephraim bemoaning himself. You have chastised me, and I was chastised, like an untrained bull. Restore me, and I will return. I will make tshuva. Remember last week, tshuva? To connect back the hey and the all three letters of the holy name that have been divided, severed by sin. I will return, for you are the Lord my God. They will say this, Ephraim, in Yeshua. So Yaakov shows surprise when he sees Israel in him, prophetically the descendants of the two sons he has just adopted. Yosef, called the tzaddik, the righteous, because of his purity, never saw it himself with Potiphar's wife and with the pagan doctrines of Egypt. Who are these descendants bound in the ties of idolatry? He does not recognize them as his grandson anymore. But as the Lord is promising, in Yeshua, Ephraim is invited to return to his heritage. Revelation 7:34, it says the same thing. Then one of the elders answered, saying to me, who are these arrayed in white robes, no more in idolatry? And where did they come from? They come all the way back from exile. And I said to them, sir, you know. So he said to me, these are the ones who come out of the great tribulation and wash their robe and make them white in the blood of the Lamb. So through Yeshua, Ephraim is coming back. After being brought to Yeshua, Ephraim will be blessed by Yeshua, by Judah, who will be renewed in the blood of the Lamb. In Zechariah 8:23, it says, thus said the Lord of hosts, in those days 10 men, so the 10 tribes, from every language of the nation shall grasp the tzitzit of Judah, and saying, let's go with you, for we have heard that God is with you. Both of them will come back together. Then Ephraim received the blessing of the multiplication. In Genesis 48, it says, but his father refused and said, I know my son, that this one, the elder. He shall become a people, and he shall be great. But truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his descendants shall become a multitude of nations, Melod Goim, which is also the prophecy that was given to Abraham. But I'm not going into this now. So the mystery of the adoption of Ephraim and Menashe has been occurring for 2,000 years now. For believers of the time of Yeshua, the adoption of the nation was not an unknown process. The Torah had prophesied it. In Romans 11:25, it says, for I do not desire, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own opinion, that blindness in part, thick as a veil, has happened to Israel until the fullness, again, pleroma, same word, that multitude of nations of the Gentiles has come in. And we find another allusion to the return of Ephraim in the book of Acts that I mentioned also in previous videos, Acts 15. Therefore, I judge that we should not trouble those from among the nations who are turning to God. It's returning to God, meaning that they return to something they knew before. It's not like repenting. No, it's they're coming back. In Greek, it's epistrepho. They're coming back. But that he write to them to abstain from things polluted by idols, sexual immorality, things strangled, and from blood. For Moses, who represents the Torah, going back home, throughout many generations, those who preach him in every city, being read in the synagogues every Shabbat. Meaning, Ephraim, go back to the synagogue, learn Torah. And this word, epistrepho, returning, means to come back, bring back, turn again. And it's one more time mentioned to the context of Act 15 that talks about the restoration of the 12 tribes. And after they have become silent, Yaakov answered, saying, Men and Bethlehem, listen to me. Shimon has declared how God at the first visited the Gentile, the nation, to take out a people for his name. And with this, the words of the prophets agree, just as it is written, after this I will return and I will rebuild the tabernacle of David, Sukkot David, Amos 9, which has fallen down, the restoration of the bride of Israel. I will rebuild its ruin, I will set it up so that the rest of mankind may seek the Lord, even all the Gentiles who are called by my name, because they knew God before, say the Lord who does all these things. Yaakov, James, leader of the assembly of the believers in Jerusalem, welcomes here the coming back of the nations as the beginning of the fulfillment of Amos' prophecy about the restoration of the kingdom of David. And the two houses were united, Judah and Ephraim. Other prophecies, a lot of them, tells of this complete reunification. There will be no more differences between Ephraim, Judah, and everybody will become one. This is why Jacob prophetically adopted Ephraim and Manasseh. Israel revealed to his son the final fight, battle. He showed them the downfall of Gog and Magog. As you read, it shall be in the end of days, B'acharita Yamim, same expression for the end time, when I shall be sanctified through thee, O Gog. This is Ezekiel 38. This is what we are, the period we are in, we're now at. Behold, he shall come down upon Edom and so. And is Ezekiel 38:18, and it will come to pass at the same time that when Gog comes against the land of Israel, say the Lord, that my fury will show in my face, and he will avenge us. He revealed to them the third temple, Isaiah 2:2. Now it shall come to pass in the latter days, B'acharita Yamim, same expression, that the mountains of the Lord house shall be established on the top of the mountain and shall be exalted above the hills, and all people shall flow to it. Then Edom, Esau, Amalek, Ishmael, whatever, will be destroyed. Numbers 24 again uses the same expression. And now indeed I'm going to my people, come, I will advise you that with these people will do to you, to your people in the latter days. B'acharit ayamim. Same story. That's it. This is the message, encrypted message that Yaakov wanted to reveal to his sons, thinking it was the 10th time already, but it was not yet the end. It has to go through all the exile, the purification of all the deeds of the flesh. When Judah, coming back to the last message, because those parashot are associated, there is only one. When Judah in physics, when our flesh will bow before the purity of Messiah ben Yosef, who gave his life to gather the 12 tribes together. So that's the way we are at. Now evil is raging, fighting very hard on this planet because he knows that he has very time left. And this is what the end of the book of Genesis teaches us in a small, very small little part. Amen to this. So thank you for listening. And now for you who are attending the rest of the Bet Midrash, or you're really kindly invited to attend with us on the Shabbat afternoon and to participate to the 2 sessions. And the theme that we're going to develop in the next video is how to live life to the fullness according to Torah's sod level. What does it mean to live? VaYechi is going to be the topic of the next video. So see you for the secret level of this parasha. Thank you for listening.